Yo people, what's going on? Welcome back to another video, and in this one we're going to be doing a 2024 edition of what's in my camera bag. But I say a 2024 edition, I've never done these before, so this is my first what's in my camera bag, so we'll give you a little cheeky insight into what's in there. This particular one is going to be my run and gun setup, the stuff I use if I'm just going to grab a bag, maybe for like a travel film, go do like a quick shoot somewhere. These are the essentials that I'm putting into a small backpack. For things that are a bit more professional and higher budget, I won't really be taking a camera bag. I'll be taking a whole camera cart full of equipment, and maybe I can do that as another video. But in the meantime, let's jump into it and let's start with this review with, you know, the bag, the camera bag. This is a pretty close lens, so I'm gonna have to get away a little bit. This camera bag is the Manfrotto B3 II. It costs about 100 quid, something like that. I'm not crazy about spending loads and loads of money on a camera bag. I think really the benefits that you get for spending significantly more money on a camera bag, like a rucksack one, aren't really worth it in my opinion. And Manfrotto is a really good brand. They make great products, they're well built, they last a long time, and their bags are no different. So if it's a brand that I trust and it's going to cost me 100 quid instead of 350 quid, I'm there for it, and it does everything that I want it to do. So let's break this down, let's get into the actual bag itself and have a look at what's inside. First off, side compartment, I usually just have a bit of water in there, a glass bottle, because, you know, I watch too much Gary Brecker. So first off, in this top compartment, now this might look on the surface a little bit disorganized, but I promise you it's not as bad as it looks. A few things that we got in here. So one power block I will always have with me, at least one power block. Sometimes I will have two, and just putting a little bit of gaff on it is an easy way for me to identify what stuff's mine. Next up, I've got the charger. This one is just the coil for a MacBook Air. So we'll get there in a second. The MacBook Air is my weapon of choice when it comes to a laptop at the moment. But this coil here, it has this on it, which is safe mag, I think they call it, Apple. But it just means you can plug that into the side of the laptop, and then you've still got two USB-Cs that you can use. Next up, this mad contraption. So this is basically just a little light. Boom, bosh, enclose it, does this. I basically got this for camping about 6 months ago, but I always just have one in my bag because you never know when you might just need a pretty decent flashlight, especially in filmmaking. A little bit of fill, little flashlight, little hair light, scary story, you know, you never know when you might need it. Although today I've not needed it. Next up, just more of an everyday carry really, little beard comb. So I've been growing a little beard out, hair fell off, went bald, so why not grow some facial hair? Next up in here we have a standard USB-C to USB-C mains charger. I always keep one of these. This one is pretty dirty, like it's seen a few days. I've beat it up a little bit, but I think it's always good to have one of those because a lot of things charge from that. So even if you've got one of these blocks, it's always good to have one of these wires with it because it just charges stuff up so much faster. Even the MacBook Air charges faster on this than it does on the cable which is dedicated for the MacBook Air, but don't know why that is. Pen, standard. You never know when you're going to need a pen. There's really just nothing special or jazzy about this pen. This is just a standard pen. Never know when you're going to need one. Bit of money, few dollars, few quid, just from trips that I've been on, surplus cash that's there. It's always just good to have a little bit of cash on you. I don't keep loads, there's only a little bit there, but you know, if you're in somewhere and you've hired a car, for example, you need to park up, it's good just to have a few dollars just in case you're at somewhere that doesn't have cash, or a few pound if you're in Great Britain and you need to pay for something. Next up, USBC charger. I think the brand is called Ugreen. Bought these are Amazon's choice. They're actually really good. There's no, you know, it does the job. USBs, a USB-C, a HDMI, another USB-C, goes straight into the side. I think it was probably about like 20 quid, something like that. It's actually built really nicely. If anybody is on the fence about what adapter to get, this one for cost, Ugreen, I'd recommend it. Have a look at them. A few ibuprofen, you know, you never know if you go somewhere on your travels, have one too many beers the night before, you might be feeling a little bit ropey, boom, boom, off you go. On this side of the bag, we've got these nice little compartments. So in the back of the bag here, the big pockets, that's where I had a lot of my wires. In this middle bit, I've just kind of got a load of random stuff. In these bits, I keep things that I use pretty regularly. So Apple AirPods, they're a standard in my kit now. I will use these all the time. So before these, I did have a pair of Bose over-ear headphones, and I still have them, and they work great. I've had them for about, I don't know, 3 years. They still work great. They sound awesome. But if you want to take a call, or you want something which has just got a little bit less footprint on it, these are the third generation or the second generation. They're the one before the most recent generation, these ones. And I prefer them personally. I think the new ones have got the buds that go directly in your ear, and I've never really been a fan of those ones with the little suction cups in the ear. I think they're, don't know, they just make me feel a bit weird inside, you know, like that much stuff inside my ears. I feel like they're trying to penetrate my brain or something. I don't like the fact they're like pressed in hard against the edges of my ears. Just, maybe it's a me thing, who knows. Camera bag. Now let's talk cameras a little bit. So when I am on the road, I like to take a film photography camera with me. So this is the one that I'm using at the moment. It is I'll put it on here, a Nikon Nikomat. This is actually a beautiful camera. Like it's like really nicely built, proper old school camera, and little 50mm lens on there. I'm not even sure what that lens is. And we do quite a lot of traveling to different places. Been to America regularly. We went to Italy together. But my colleague Joe, he bought one of these and just like took up film photography. We're in Washington DC for a shoot about a year ago, and I was like, all right mate, let me just give it a little spin. Cranked it back, hit the switch, and that was it. I saw the shutter go over the lens and I was sold. That was me. I was into film photography. It's a 35mm film camera. You know, there's a little roll of film in there. Ultramax Kodak 400. I'm trying through loads of different ones at the moment, but I've been doing a lot of film photography, which has been a nice breakup to just doing all video, like a lot of cinematic video. So having something like this with a film camera, it forces you to actually get better and think more deeply about the composition. So whenever I'm going anywhere on a trip, I'll always take this with me. I'll always take one roll, maybe 2 rolls of film, and I'll generally just like choose a different roll of film each time. Obviously it depends where I'm going. If I'm going somewhere that's a really hot country, it's going to be very bright. I'm going to get a lower ISO number. If it's somewhere a bit more moody, a little bit darker, or I just want to experiment with something new, I'll go for that higher ISO number. But I'm pretty much a white belt when it comes to film photography at the moment. So any tips that you have for me if you're into film photography, hit me up in the comments, because I'm learning and I'm really enjoying it. This is something I always take if I'm going on a travel somewhere. And then on this other side of the pockets, these little tucked away pockets, I've got a Samsung T5. This is a 1TB SSD hard drive, and I've also got this wire here. The reason why I've got this wire, even though I've got other USB-C wires, is for 2 reasons. One of which, because it's so small, it works really well when you are editing something and you've got your hard drive plugged in. You don't have this massive flailing wire away from you. I've also got Velcro on there, and on my old computer I had Velcro on the back of it and I could just stick it on it, but I really need to fit some Velcro on my new computer. Or the other reason why these are really good versus, say, these ones, the Apple mains charging plug ones, these particular wires move data much faster, and I'm talking like you can drop 160 gig in like 5 minutes versus one of these kinds of wires, and genuinely for the same amount of data you'd be looking at somewhere in the region of half an hour. So it makes a big difference. I always keep these 2 on me. All right, next up, let's talk a little bit about what is in the front here. Just flips open, and this is the laptop that I'm rocking at the moment. This is an M2 MacBook Air in this like matte black design. I actually love this computer. Before I had this computer, I had a MacBook Pro before that, which was the 2017 version, and then I got the M1, and it was just worlds apart in terms of its performance. Those M chips are absolutely insane how good they are. When they started introducing the M chips into these smaller computers like the M1, the M2, and they put it into the Air, I looked at the specs on this, the similarity between getting one of these at a good spec versus getting a MacBook Pro, which was going to be significantly more expensive. This bad boy, would definitely recommend it for anybody that's looking for a relatively inexpensive, trusty steed of a laptop. Okay, let's next talk a little bit about the other compartments in here. So there's a little side compartment. I don't really use this very often. It just has this in it, which is like a bit of a waterproof shield that you can put onto the top of the bag like that if you need to, but I've actually never used it. This little side pocket here, it goes all the way deep into it. Oh, I've got a toothbrush in there, so if I'm on the road, I've got a spare toothbrush, emergency toothbrush. Always got to keep those gnashers nice and clean. But genuinely, I don't really use that pocket for much, apart from a toothbrush and a cover. You can see that up there. On the other side of the bag here, we've got a little blower here. One of those bad boys. You'll have probably seen these before if you have been in this filmmaking game. They're a really good and cheap thing to keep in your camera bag, just to ensure that when you get on set, if your camera's got a little bit of dust in its sensor, you can just blow that shit out. Okay, next up we've got this bad boy here. So this is like a little multi-tool. So this is a DJI branded one, and this basically just has it's got all the different size Allen keys on it. So I have this one, this DJI one, which is like a bit beefier. It's got more Allen key shapes on it. Finally, in this little side pocket here, we've got Tiffin Pro Mist. So it's in the box here. So this is a Pro Mist filter here. This is a 1/4 Pro Mist filter, so it's a little bit stronger, but basically you put it on the end of the lens and it just gives it a little bit of that dreamy look to it. It gives a bit of halation on the highlight, so if there's lights, it almost blooms off them. I know people quite like the black satin filters as well, just for taking that digital sharpness off. I've not used one myself yet, but I'd be open to trying one. The good thing about the design of this camera bag is the back. All the actual really expensive and important stuff is in here and right on your back. So this just opens up like so. Okay, so let's start off with what's in here, and let's start with a camera. So the camera that is in here, which I take with me on most of my shoots if I'm traveling or taking a light kit, is still the FX6. I know this might seem overkill doing like a run and gun filmmaking or shooting, but it's actually a really compact cinema camera body. It just has so much versatility in the way that you can set it up with just either just a side handle, or you can put top handle and all that sort of stuff. It's just so reliable. It's got the internal ND in there. It's been a workhorse. I actually own 2 of these, so I'm shooting on one at the moment. So Bosch, there we go. That's now all been built. You can have it ready to go in like a couple of minutes, really, even if that, like a minute. Had it for probably 3 years. Since they first came out, I was the first person, I think, probably somewhere near the front, to get on the queue to actually buy one. Got one pretty early doors, bought another one. Yeah, they're top tier, very reliable, built like absolute tanks, loads of features, great spec, great image on them. And even when it comes to like run and guns, I like to have, you know, a proper camera that I can grip and like be mobile on, and you know, the FX6 is exactly that. This is a little Portkeys monitor. So it's a real cheap and cheerful one, this one. It's literally probably cost about 100 quid, maybe 150, with a little battery for it. I think it does help you just at the end of the day, you can see a little bit more of what's going on. If you were considering getting a monitor, I wouldn't actually recommend this particular model. Portkeys do have some good alternatives that are cheap. When I went to New York about 6 months ago, I went into the big B&H there, which is always a thing I like to do when I go there and check out the new gear that they've got, or check out the different brands when they're bringing out stuff like monitors. Portkeys have actually got some really nice ones that are significantly better than this. They're probably going to cost a little bit more, but they're a good competitive brand if you don't want to spend a fortune on a monitor. And then of course, camera, you're going to need a lens to use it. So this here is the Sony 2.8 G Master 70-200 zoom lens. It's one of those things with lenses, once you invest in one, and a good one, they will last you a long time. In my personal opinion, it's not worth spending on like super high spec lenses unless you start going to the cinema range of lenses where you're starting to look at like the Cooks and whatever. But this lens here, the 70-200, is a really nice range. It gives you a good breakup between being tight on the 70 down to the 24, and a lot of the time we might do a little crash zoom, which will be stylized in a video in like a bit of a vintage stylish edit. I'm a fan of prime lenses as well, but a camera bag to hit the road with and have that versatility, I'm choosing the 24-70 every single time. It's a really spot on lens and no complaints from me. So final thing in the camera bag is the microphone. So obviously if you're going to shoot something, some video, 50% of the viewing experience is audio. I've been using this, which is the Rode NTG3. I've actually had this microphone for about 4 or 5 years. Microphones are one of those things, especially a shotgun mic. Rode are generally actually really good. I've got 2 NTG2s as well, but this one, the NTG3, just gives it that extra bit of like polish and crispness and depth to the voice. It has broken once in the 4 or 5 years that I've had it, and when it broke, it was one of these little prongs at the end, so it could have just been that we were, you know, shoving in the XLR a little bit too vigorously, but by and large this has lasted absolutely ages. It's been in all sorts of environments, it's never folded, and the quality out of it is bang on. And then we'll always have with that just a little mini XLR cable there, we'll always have one of those just to connect that into the camera. So I'm a big believer in just capturing the audio. If you've got a microphone, put it on your camera, connect it on, put it in, just capture it, embed it into the file. You'll thank yourself for it someday when you've got it for the edit. In addition to that, I'll always carry one of these as well. So this is a sacred rule for me, is always ensure that you've got a backup for your audio. We've been stung where you finish a shoot and you get home and then you check the audio and it sounds a little bit hazy, a little bit crap, something's gone wrong, a wire's come loose, settings aren't right, whatever it may be. I always like to just use a lavalier mic. It's the one that I'm wearing right now. It's capturing the audio for this video. It's the Tascam DR10L. They're really not that expensive. They're like maybe 120, 130 pounds. It's dead small, nifty bit of kit, comes with an audio wire and a grip for it. Would always recommend having one and doing a backup audio. But yeah, that about concludes what's in my camera bag for 2024. If you liked any of these items, I'll leave some links for them in the description. If you've got any recommendations of things that you think would be good additions to this camera bag, do let me know and drop a comment in the comment section below. But until next time, thank you. It's always a pleasure. Polish up that head, headbutt the subscribe button. It's the only thing that I'll ask you to do, and I'll see you in the next video. Safe.